I know, folks, that Duke and big game don't necessarily go in the same sentence when it comes to football, but you're going to have to change your old habits because this is one and Duke's legit. So get ready for a visit from the Blue Devils on the football field at Doak. It should be a good one. Florida State's still a sizable favorite against Duke. We will size it up ourselves here at the Voice of College Football for the next 60. Right next to me, we got George Georgitis from Renegade Report. Check him out right there. George, how do we stand in the subscriber count?
I believe we are at 448. So we're 52. We need 52 more to hit 500, and then we'll be on the road to 1,000 before you know it.
Sub up Renegade Report. We'll drop the link in the chat, folks. We'll make it easy on you, even though it's easy to do. Just Renegade Report right in your search bar. Get on over there. Check it out. Sub to the channel. Chris Frazier's here. Spear Addicts. We appreciate Chris stopping by and making this work. Chris, we know you're busy, so thanks so much for being here. What's going on at Spear Addicts?
Oh, we started a new segment, which is a new episode on Sundays that we do at 4 p.m. It's the Sporadic Sunday Sod Talk, and it's a fan call-in show. So we let the fans check out Monday and Thursday's episode at 8 p.m. Also check out us on Mark Rogers here on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. So everybody can kind of get all of the content that that we put out throughout the week, and then Sunday, if they have questions about anything in particular, whether it be on this show or the other two or the radio stuff that I'm doing or whatever it is, then they can call in and chime in and ask or make their comments that they want to. So that's the newest thing is Sod Talk. Somewhere around the Miami game, I'm supposed to have David Pollock on. So that's going to be a real big deal. I don't know how it happened, don't know what happened, but he started on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, and every time that he posts anything about Florida State, he tags me in it. And I thought that, okay, for sure it's or someone that works for him that's doing this. It's not him doing it. They just seen something that was popular and went with it. But no, it was actually him. And we've talked a little bit back and forth over the past couple of months, and it looks like it's worked out to be a really good relationship, and it is what it is, and I can't wait for it to happen.
All right, folks. We'll be looking out for that, and we will certainly let you know when that comes together. David Pollock on Spear Addicts. That should be something else. Always have enjoyed David Pollock. Think he's one of the best in the business. No doubt about that. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it. I'd let Chris just make his promo and then I'd just move on. All right. George, your thoughts about Syracuse before we start talking about this Duke game. 41-3, pretty complete win, top to bottom.
Yeah, man, it blew my prediction out of the water. I had it, I believe, 48-21, something in that range, and we got close to 48, but, man, you only gave up a field goal for the second year in a row. You can't ask for much more out of that defense. The defense showed up and was absolutely dominant all day long. You still didn't get an absolute perfection from the offense. You didn't get 4 full quarters. They kind of stalled out a little bit in the second quarter, but they did what they needed to do. They went out and handled business. The line was, I believe, 21, somewhere between 17 and 21, and they cleared it by a country mile. So just really glad to see the guys go out there and handle business, against a 4-2 Syracuse team, to where, you say what you want about their depth and, them kind of falling apart the last couple of weeks. We held them to just by far kind of lows in all kind of different categories. Really completely shut them down. Garrett Schrader just never had a chance to get going in that game. They blitzed a lot, really super aggressive on defense. That's the main thing. The defensive effort was just stellar, and you really feel good about it moving forward.
What's your take on this one, Chris?
I was extremely impressed with what Adam Fuller and Coach Norvell. I like the game plan from both sides, offensively and defensively. I really liked a lot of the run plays that we did, some different mesh stuff in the backfield that we hadn't done yet this year with Toa Philly and also Benson. And then we even got to see our backup quarterback and Keziah Holmes, the running back. So we got to see Tate and Keziah do a little bit of this as well. And to see those guys coming fresh off the bench and really, not played a whole lot this year, to see them do it so well, like it was second nature to them, was really cool. We definitely left a good 14 to 21 points on the board. We dropped on one drive. We dropped 3 touchdown passes that hit receivers in the hands or the gut, and then also we dropped one that would have went for a touchdown. So we had 11 drops in that game from different wide receivers. So that part of it that needs to get cleaned up. But all in all, Florida State dominated the game. There was never a moment that you felt like Florida State wasn't in control, whether it be defense or offense. We didn't give up any big plays. We were never out of place. And I think the thing that people need to notice the most is 2 weeks in a row, this defense has held Virginia Tech to 10 points. I know they scored 17, but 7 was off of a kick return. That's not the defense's fault. Believe it or not, that's called special teams. And then, they held them to 10 points, which was a field goal and a touchdown. And then against Syracuse, they held them to 3 points. And yes, I get that Syracuse and Virginia Tech aren't top tier of the ACC, but they are Power 5 programs. They definitely have good enough athletes to score a touchdown or multiple touchdowns in a game. And for our defense to completely shut Syracuse down completely, except for the 3 points that they scored, they only crossed the 50-yard line, I think, a total of 4 times in the whole game. So just a really dominant performance from the defense, and look forward to that continuing on against Duke come Saturday.
I'm thinking that for those people out there that did not tune into this game, probably nobody in this chat because you guys are locked in on Florida State. But if you saw one play from this game, you saw Keon Coleman go over the middle and pluck one-handed out of the air, which just shows what crazy ability he has.
Man, what a catch, man. The dude just keeps making highlight reel after highlight reel play every week. He's starting to get real consideration for that number 1 spot with the Ohio State receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not quite there yet, but I think he could very much take over that total narrative as the best wide receiver in the nation if he keeps putting on these kind of performances. He's up to 7 touchdowns and about 500-600 yards, I believe. Just showing out, man. I couldn't be happier with him. We thought, we knew he was going to come in and be a number 1 type, but if it's possible to exceed expectations coming in, he's done it. One big thing I want to bring up before I forget, as far as that defensive performance, we talked about it on my show the other day. Man, Joshua Farmer and these young guys on that defensive line really showed up and showed out in this game, as far as there being absolutely 0 drop off from that first and second team. And that was just absolutely amazing to see, and really has me hyped up for this home game coming up with Duke.
And I want to add a little bit something about Keon Coleman. He's the first wide receiver since Peter Wart, which the day of the game in warmups, he was wearing a Peter Wart T-shirt, and him and Pete have gotten pretty close, which is awesome. But Keon Coleman's the first wide receiver in 25 years to have over 100 yards in receiving yards in a game, and also over 100 yards in punt return yardage. Mm-hmm. And going along with that, I posted the punt return and on X, and you've got Keon making people miss and look very much like what Peter Wart did back in his day. He was just juking people completely out of the picture, and he was getting past everyone, and then it just looked very similar to what P-Dub used to do. And I recorded the video and said, look at Keon Coleman doing his impersonation of Peter Wart. And I noticed that when I first watched the video, that Coach Norvell is running stride for stride on the sideline with Keon Coleman. So, I mean, he's literally right beside him, and they're running in the same pace. When I say stride for stride, I knew that Coach Norvell could run, but I did not know that he could run like that. But that wasn't what I highlighted in the video, because it was very impressive to me that Keon was able to get the punt return yards that he was, also the reception yards, and him being the first one in 25 years, only being matched with Peter Warwick. But everyone decided on X that was going to be the biggest thing on Florida State media for at least a couple of days, because it started out with a few people reposted it. Then Patrick Payton, which is a defensive end at Florida State, he reposted it and said, we need to get a clock on Coach Norvell to see how fast he was running in that particular play. And then Coach Norvell retweeted it, and it went viral. So now, I don't know, I think I gained like 200 and something followers because of a video. But just to have Coach Norvell and them repost it, and Pat Payton repost it, and then Keon even put it in his bookmarks, was pretty cool. So we had that happen at Spirit Attic. So I'm glad that y'all brought up Keon's catch, because I wasn't going to say anything about this because I forgot all about it because of everything that I've been talking about all day today. That just hasn't came up. So, but I was really, really impressed with Keon Coleman, particularly in this game against Syracuse. And I look forward to Mark, I'm going to say something a little bit out of turn. What I mean by that is before you've asked the question, not that I'm going to say anything ignorant, but I'm taking the attitude of Florida State coaches, the attitude of Florida State players, with the conversations that I've had over this week so far. They feel that they're being disrespected nationally. They feel like there's some in our own fan base that speak really down on this team. They think that, people aren't as excited about what we've achieved to this point as the team is. Now, the team understands that they've got things that they need to work on and things that they're going to fix, but they have continued to improve throughout the year. And the frustration level is a little bit there. And, every time it comes up on national media, well, Florida State, when it started this year, and Mark, you picked LSU to beat us as well, which is no harm to nobody. I'm just saying the facts. We weren't supposed to beat LSU. We did that, and then the narrative was, well, LSU's not as good as everybody thought they were. Then we were supposed to, potentially lose to Clemson because we were going to their house. We haven't beaten them at home in 10 years. A lot of people were saying we're going to find out this week if Florida State's a fraud or not. That was a national media perspective. Their words on ESPN were, we'll find out if Florida State's indeed a fraud. That's what they said. So, not that I like that our guys know this or see this or even read into any of this, but they do. These kids you're not going to keep them off social media. It's just not going to happen. And I told all of our fans today, we have to start supporting this team for what they've achieved and talk about them as they should be talked about, and be loud enough that none of the outer perspective of national media or other fan base media or other fan bases get into these guys' ears, because it's just not, to me, it's not fair, because I think what this team has done, I understand that there is a plethora of veterans on this team. The difference is they didn't become veterans together. You've got 3 new offensive line pieces that are considered veteran pieces, but they've never played in this line. They've never done what Coach Atkins is asking them to do. So there's a lot of new players for this team to continuously win and win 6 games in a row, and looking for their 7th. I'm more impressed with this team than I think most people are, because they just want to see the downfall, or they're expecting it, because there's been some games we squeaked by, like Boston College, and that's understandable. But the last time I checked, that's what really good teams do. When they do play a really bad game, or they're off, or whatever have it, they find a way to win. And that's what I think Florida State did against Boston College. And since then, we haven't seen, a terrible outing from Florida State. We haven't seen, rainbows and fireworks and all of that in every aspect of the game, but we've seen constant improvement, and consistency is there. We're consistently seeing that Jordan is moving the ball and spreading the ball around to different wide receivers, especially against Syracuse. He targeted over 11 different receivers. So we're doing these things. Everybody said that our running game wasn't working. Then we have a running back go for 200 yards in one game. Then this last game, Trey Benson had 79, Toa Philly had 98, 99, and we had over 300. And I think it was right at 300 yards of rushing yards against them, plus over 300 yards in passing. So it was 279 and 300, so 579 in total. So I think that this team, on each thing that everybody has griped about, each game they have tried to prove that they're going to do the complete opposite, that they're going to show you that they can run the ball. They're going to show you that there's more wide receivers than just Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, that our defense can hold people to not scoring a bunch of points. So I'm just looking forward to this game. A lot of people are hating on me for my prediction because I think Florida State, based off of the conversations that I've had with some of these guys, this is a game they're going to make a statement on. They're about to go absolutely wild come Saturday, because now the narrative is if Riley plays for Duke, which is the quarterback, if he plays, Florida State probably not going to win this game. And there's a lot of people picking Duke to win if this guy plays. And if he doesn't play, the narrative will be, well, they didn't play the best Duke team. They didn't have their quarterback. So I'm hoping that this kid's there. I'm hoping that he's fully 100% back. I hope he can run like a horse. I hope that everything's good, because I want to beat them at their best, and that's what Florida State wants. But everybody's getting on me about my prediction because I've got us winning 42-10 against Duke, and everybody thinks I'm absolutely crazy because of it. But if you would hear the coaches and hear these Florida State players talk, I'm just forewarning people, there's going to be no mercy given in this game from Florida State.
Yeah, I just want to add something. You said some great things there, and I'm with you 100%. You had me fired up when you was talking about this earlier in the space. And this is things, that people that don't follow FSU, people that don't have the connections to the program like you, don't understand. If you were going to get Florida State, like you said, everybody said, oh, we're supposed to lose to LSU, all these different things. The running game wasn't going early. Yes, we have all this experience, but like you said, a lot of them, they got all their experience elsewhere. This is still a brand new team. You still took 12 guys, from the portal and different things. Guys like Keziah Holmes, who you took last year, who's now up into the roster. Ayobami Tufase, who wasn't available last year. Things like that. This is a team that is coming together in tons of different moving parts. You bring Keon Coleman, and he's immediately kind of your number one guy on offense. Those things take time. The running game has come together. Like, if they were going to get Florida State, that time has passed. And that's the thing that, like you said, it's crazy that, there's always these different excuses and things, but Mike Norvell has methodically planned this thing, from the rotations on the defensive line, and with the corners, from the rotation at linebacker, and the different guys, the different reps he split amongst the running backs that people may get aggravated about, and the different things, plays, wildcat runs that he plays that now Duke has to prepare for. Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I haven't put a prediction public yet, but I'm going to be somewhere in that. I feel like somewhere in the 40, maybe late teens, early 20s. But yeah, I just had to get that out there for sure. I agree 100% with Chris, and that's just what people don't realize. This thing it's ascending, and this Duke game really can be, like Chris said, be that national media really just like slap them upside the head. And I hope Riley Leonard's out there, because if you do put him out there, he's a running quarterback. Like, as much as, you want to talk about, a first round quarterback, you go watch the tape, and the success Duke had was him running the ball more than Jordan Wilson or Jordan Travis. I'm telling you, it may not be flashy 80-yard runs like Jordan hits every once in a while, but him moving his legs and picking up first downs and making plays in situational football is how they kind of beat Clemson and these other teams. They didn't put up big offensive numbers. So I could definitely see Adam Fuller and the heater he's on coming and just totally shutting them down as well.
So I would say this to possibly one of the reasons why, I don't think it's the only reason, but possibly one reason why this team is if you want to say it's disrespected or underrated or disregarded, is that everybody else, almost everybody else in college football right now that's competing, that appears to be a contender to get to the playoff, most of those teams, we can rattle off the names. There's about 4 or 5 for sure that are in position to do something special this year, and they've done something recently. Like they've been winning conference championships, they've been going to the playoffs. So there's that recent history that people look at to say, okay, we know that they're going to be here. There's only about 4 or 5 of them. Now, Oregon's different. Washington's different. They haven't done anything recently to an elite level. So I don't know how they're being necessarily rated, talked about. It depends who you talk to. Of course, I'm talking about Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia in particular. I would be talking about Clemson if they were in it, but they're not. So I think that's one thing that people tend to go to, is that until you've done it, either won a conference championship, got into the playoff, beaten those kind of teams to get there, or do it in the playoff, then there's going to be a certain number of people that are not going to believe it until they see it. All right, folks, appreciate you being here. Florida State Seminoles Live. We do this every Wednesday. So this is not a one-time deal. We do this every Wednesday, folks. 6 o'clock Eastern time is the time to be here. We got Chris from Spear Addicts. We got George from the Renegade Report, both right here on YouTube. Chris, do you still go on Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m.?
I go at 8 p.m.
8 p.m. 8 p.m. I always screw that up. 8 p.m. Eastern time for Chris right here on YouTube. So check that out on Spear Addicts. Right here on YouTube, Monday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then the Sunday call-in show, is that got a particular time?
Yeah, it's at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
A lot of opportunities to talk Florida State football with Chris and the crew right there. George, any particular times that we need people to know about?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm Monday and Thursday too, but I'm actually at the 7. So 7 Eastern, Monday and Thursday. Yeah, and
I apologize. I don't
me,
remember this stuff. I talk to way too many people every day to keep everybody's show times in my head. Although I've got Monday and Thursday locked in with Chris, I just have the wrong time. So here's your deal, folks. Monday and Thursday, you've got a doubleheader 2-hour block of Florida State talk. Are you listening to me, everybody out there? Monday and Thursday, 2-hour block, 7 to 9. Or maybe beyond that. I don't know how far Chris goes with the 8 p.m. show, but starting at 7 o'clock, you got George on Renegade Report. Then you go directly at 8 o'clock Eastern to Chris and Spear Addicts. That's Monday and Thursday, 7 o'clock Renegade Report, 8 o'clock Spear Addicts. Hopefully I've drilled that in everyone's heads. Very good.
And you guys take advantage of that call-in show on Sunday for sure.
Yes.
That's a freaking awesome opportunity to get to call in and talk to Chris, and they really do a great job. It's a fan favorite. I got to call in on his first show, and it's a lot of fun, man. There's no better guy to talk to about your Florida State stuff. So get over there and check that out on Sundays for sure.
I'll definitely say that I was going to do it as a one-time thing because I had quite a few people asking me, Chris, you ever going to do a call-in show? And I was like, well, never really planned on doing a call-in show, but I'll try it out, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll do one once a month or something and see how it goes. And it blew up the first episode, and then now it's every Sunday this has got to happen, and it's what the fans want. So I'm giving them what they want. And every Thursday night show, we have Florida State trivia after the show's done on the show. So there's some things that people really enjoy doing on the show. So try to give everybody what they want.
No
also
doubt.
this week, I'm sorry.
Job. Go ahead, George.
My bad, Mark. Also this week, I got something going with Polk from the Knowles After Dark right here on YouTube too. It's not actually going to be on Thursday. We're actually going to do something on Friday. Trying to get somebody in from Duke to talk the Duke game tomorrow, but we'll see how that happens. But we're for sure going to do something with Polk in the Knowles After Dark show.
If anybody out there knows any Duke media, let George know. Let me know. I was trying to get somebody from Duke 247 Sports or Rivals or somebody that's got a decent YouTube channel or somebody out there that knows what they're talking about to talk some Duke football.
Tons of basketball folks out there, but
yeah.
football is
Well, they're
slim
going to
pickings.
start paying attention to their football team because they're pretty damn good.
Mark,
Before
I'll
we
get
move
you
on,
hooked up with a guy named Dustin, and he's got I think he's got 14 or 15,000 subscribers on YouTube, but I at the moment do not remember the name of the show, but I know him.
okay.
I'll let him know that y'all are looking for somebody. I was planning on if we do indeed play them, if Florida State makes it and do I'm over here talking about the wrong team. Sorry. If Duke was to have made it previous to this, I thought, if Duke still finds a way to get to the ACC championship game, whomever it is going to be that we play, but he was going to be the guy if Duke was the one that did indeed make it to the ACC championship, and we did, that we were going to do a collaborated show together. But I'll definitely let him know that y'all are looking for somebody, and he would love to do it. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Might work out.
When we were talking about Keon Coleman, I wanted to transition to another guy that, of course, the Florida State fan base was mighty excited about once he signed, and he's starting to work his way into the offense, and he made a huge play, obviously, against Syracuse. That's one Hakeem Williams, Chris.
Yeah, Hakeem is going to be really special. I think he already is special to the point of that he's a redshirt freshman, and y'all seen just how good he was off of his acceleration, how he is at getting people to miss. But, Hakeem is one of the first 5-star wide receivers that Florida State's been able to get out of recruiting, and we'll just say quite some time. It's been a while. And Coach Dugan's did a phenomenal job with getting him here. But what he gives most praise to, other than Coach Dugan's and Norvell, for putting them in the right situations, training them the way that they need to be on all the fundamentals, and really getting them to all understand their routes and the playbook well. He gives the guys ahead of him, like Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Portier, he gives all of them a huge shout out to what he's able to achieve because of how these guys work with each other outside of practice, what they continuously talk about. They go over the plays. All of them have the playbook as far as what they need. They all go over what they're supposed to be doing in plays as far as blocking or what route they're running. Are they the ghost route? Are they the hot route? Whatever the case may be. And he gives them a lot of kudos for why he is improving as fast as he is. We already knew he was a raw talent, that he was going to be, a really good wide receiver here at Florida State. But as all high school players that come in, a lot of them never have a playbook, even in high school. It's a lot like, hey, run a go route or hit a dig or this, that, or the other. They're not really told, in specifics, where they want the cut at, what formation it is when you're on a bunch formation, et cetera. The different things. So it's a lot for these young guys to learn in just a spring and fall session of learning the playbook. But he said if it wasn't for his teammates, he would have never caught on to the plays as quick as he did. But because of them, it's getting him in the games early, and he really appreciates everyone at Florida State for working with him to get him in as quick as he has been able to get in.
George, anything on Hakeem Williams?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, just an absolute stud to be a true freshman and start getting them reps early on and to finally get that big touchdown catch and for it to be like a 30, 40 yard or whatever it ended up being. Florida State kind of has this history of big time playmakers and players that go on to be these, kind of guys like Jordan Travis that end up in the record books. Their first kind of snap, either their first snap or their first touchdown play, ends up being one of these plays. You go back in history and it's just kind of something that happens. Like Jordan Travis against Boston College gets that first snap and just takes it to the house for a 40, 50 yard touchdown. And that's kind of, the first thing I thought when I see him do that, just a kind of get another guy in a long line of great Florida State wide receivers. And you're seeing that athleticism just get to that next level, and starting to see the high school guys come in and take off. And it's just a testament to this staff, like Chris said, and what Dugan's been able to do with this wide receiver core, and to just get it rolling through the past couple of years and moving towards the future. It's bright. It's very bright, and we're set for years to come with guys like Hakeem Williams.
This Duke team is 4th and 16 stop against Notre Dame from being undefeated, and this being a really, really hyped up game for both teams. They still have a ton to play for, as Chris mentioned, certainly right in the thick of the ACC race. Now, running into Florida State's not necessarily a good thing for them, because they'll most likely get tagged with a second loss, or first loss. Of course, their loss out of conference doesn't count. So they're still undefeated in the conference, so still in good shape. So let's clean that up. Duke's still in good shape and undefeated in the conference, coming off a 24-3 win against NC State. Is NC State really that good this year? No, it's not one of the better NC State teams we've seen, but they're still functional, capable, a decent team. And Duke took care of them without Riley Leonard. Now, the backup quarterback, Henry Beelan, I believe is how you pronounce his name, didn't necessarily tear it up at 4 of 12 for 107 yards. So they didn't need him, but still, I didn't see one pass from this game. So I can't evaluate the 4 for 12. It certainly doesn't look good unless there were a ton of drops. So they desperately want Riley Leonard back in this game. But I have seen Duke play Clemson, did watch that game start to finish. And I watched the Notre Dame game pretty much start to finish. And they should have won that ball game, outplayed the Irish for most of the game. So they've put together a good football team. And what Mike Elko has done is truly remarkable. And Florida State fans, you should be able to appreciate this, because you've seen Mike Norvell do it with your program. Duke had lost 17 of 18 ACC games before Mike Elko showed up. They were 1-17 in the ACC the previous 3 seasons. Because one of those seasons was the COVID year, so they played all ACC games. So 1-17. He shows up, takes the same exact players, goes 9-4, wins a bowl game, doesn't lose a game by more than 1 score, and they're doing what they're doing this year. So it's no team to laugh at, or they're no joke by any stretch. Now, Florida State's the better team. There's no question about that. It's not debatable. They're decidedly the better team, but they certainly cannot take this team lightly.
No, and I think that's what the Florida State coaches have been really, really instilling into the game plan. Is this is a team that you can get up on, quite handsomely. Like we could be up 21-0 on them, and you've seen where at times our defense has started to kind of chill out. They'll kind of relax, and they'll let teams score on them, or get back into the game on them. So it's been really, really spoke on at a high measure that this team, while they might not have 8 5-star athletes on the field, they're one of the most disciplined teams that we'll probably face ever. Not just this year, but ever. They don't make a lot of mistakes defensively, if any. You don't see blown coverages. Their guys are always where they're supposed to be. They know how to stay at home. It's because they're extremely disciplined. They don't commit a lot of penalties on defense either. The only way that you cause them to make mistakes on offense is by getting enough pressure on their quarterback. And, I mean, as far as ball security goes from their running backs, they don't hardly ever let a fumble up. They don't give the ball up. They are very, very disciplined, and you can lose to a disciplined team with me. You can be very talented, but if you play like Clemson did against them, if you make those mistakes, that's what that team thrives off of. They are a team that they're waiting to help you make a mistake so that they can get the momentum, and that's what feeds them, is the momentum of the mess ups from the other team. So you have to do a really good job at playing a clean game with Duke and not making those mistakes, because that's what I think this is what Duke is probably, if there was a way to measure it, if there was a ranking to do it off of, Duke would be ranked number one off of making teams pay for their mistakes. They do a wonderful job of it. They know how to make teams pay for it, and they make sure they get points off of other people's mistakes. So it's something that Florida State's going to have to pay attention to, and crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. When you're carrying the football, make sure you're securing it with both hands. When you're catching the football, I guess unless you're Keon Coleman jumping 8 feet in the air, make sure you get 2 hands on it. Also, don't hold on to the ball too long in the pocket, because they while they're not the greatest athletes that we've ever seen, their schemes and their schematic on defense as far as how they bring pressure, I'm going to say it, man. Elko is a hell of a defensive mind, and the way he's got these guys playing is it's second to none. I think that with the schemes that he's bringing, and I think we're going to see some things that we haven't seen from Duke yet. They want this game. They want to win it. They need to win it, because, like you just said, Mark, if they lose this one, it's their first loss in ACC conference play. It's not that you're completely out of it at that point, but with the way that Florida State and North Carolina are playing, you got very small, place of you don't have many margins to where you can slip up. So Duke's going to want this game badly, and I don't think it matters who their quarterback is. They're going to come out and give us the best possible game that they got, and Florida State has to make sure that if it is Riley, that we keep him contained as much as possible. And I think with playing against LSU with Daniels, because I think Daniels is more athletic than Riley is, also faster. We were able to contain him very well in the second half. You game plan them similar to what you did with LSU, other than the fact that I think that their wide receiver group is, while not great, I think they're very efficient. They're consistent. They consistently get the move, the sticks. So we got to be really careful with what we're doing. Keep the ball in front of us. Don't allow the big play, and take care of the football. And you win this football game if you play a clean game.
George, any thoughts on Duke?
Yeah, man. I agree with everything Chris said. When you look at this thing, Mike Elko, like he said, is just like a phenom. He's an amazing defensive coordinator. He's kind of the source. He's kind of like the well of a whole, kind of groove of defense out there that's really taken over college football. It's a big thing. People everywhere, following suit. Adam Fuller and our defense is based, in that same vein, very similar. They're extremely, disciplined, like Chris said. The same thing with the offense is kind of the opposite. Mike Norvell is kind of the center. He's kind of the well of that big offspring of that specific type of offense that they also run, that's kind of similar to us. So it's really kind of like looking in a mirror when you kind of look at the teams, but the difference is we have a healthy quarterback and the talent level is just to another level. Now they've got some studs. They've got guys like Miami transfer Al Blades Jr. That's, he's an athlete. They've got that 5'8" safety. I believe his name's Jalen Stinson. He's a stud athlete back there at safety. He's going to make plays. Again, you can't say it enough times. Super disciplined. They're not going to beat themselves. Jordan Travis has put some balls in jeopardy this year in some early games. Maybe gotten away with a few when he's getting tackled, threw one up that he shouldn't have, things like that. In this Syracuse game, we didn't see that. I don't think he threw one ball that was, a turnover-worthy play or anything like that. I think I heard on another podcast somebody mentioned that he had 0 turnover-worthy plays. So he has to continue that. Just, not try to force anything. Just play within the offense and let that kind of athleticism take over, and I think it will. So it's just about executing the game plan, and these guys are going to be fired up. There's going to be no shortage of emotion. I think the defense is going to be super aggressive. We don't know which quarterback we're getting. If it's the backup, Beelan, I don't think there's you hate to write anybody off, but I don't think there's any chance they score enough points with him, because Adam Fuller will just be able to pin his ears back and rush him and, play coverage right behind it. And he's just going to have nowhere to go. But if Riley Leonard can go, like Chris said, I hope he does go. That makes it interesting. You're going to see that chess match. He's going to have the ability to beat that blitz some, but I just don't think they have. Riley's going to be mobile enough if he plays, and if it's the backup quarterback, I don't think he's going to be able to make the defense pay with his arm enough to keep up. Eventually, Florida State's going to store their 30, 40 points. It doesn't really matter who's D'ing them up.
At times, once we get late into the season, I like to match up some of these teams that play in the same conference, and you've got a string of like opponents. Once you get deep into November, it might be 4 or 5 teams, and then you can say, okay, well, how did they do in yards per carry against all the various metrics? And it starts to maybe mean something. You got to kind of put it into context. Of course, we don't have that here. We've got one game, it's against Clemson. So it's at least a high leverage game where you're playing somebody that's really good, where both teams were playing their best. And it's not like, okay, it was whoever and it was a blowout in the second half. So they were high leverage games, but still one game. Duke got them at home. Florida State had to go on the road. I'm not going to draw any kind of comparison there. If you watch the Duke Clemson game, it was extremely impressive what Duke did. Now, was it truly a 28-7 game? No. It was a close game until maybe 6-8 minutes left in the game, something like that, and then they ran away with it. Actually got outgained in the game significantly, but just made the right plays at the right time, got turnovers. Clemson was careless with the ball in the red zone in particular, but certainly it was an impressive showing as a 2-touchdown dog to win on opening night against Clemson on national television. And of course, we all know what happened with Florida State and Clemson, just to bring that angle up there. All right, Chris, anything on the recruiting front to highlight? Always like to hit you up on that.
Yeah, we had a space today on X, and we were talking a lot about recruiting, but Florida State's trending really well for LJ McCray. A lot of folks are wondering what Odell's doing as far as recruiting goes. A lot of people wonder if we're ever, is he asleep or what is he doing? And I'll never speak bad about Odell Higgins. It'll never come out of my mouth. Odell he's the original. He's an OG, man. That's what he is. And I don't care if he gets 3 stars, no stars, or 5 stars. He seems to find a way to turn each and every defensive lineman that he's got into a great one. And then, but LJ McCray is a 5-star. He's trending toward Florida State. He commits on the 21st of this month. I don't know what Florida State's doing that day. They're playing Duke that day. There's rumors that he will be at the Duke game the day that he's supposedly committing. But he's trending toward Florida State. I personally think that's where he's going on all the accounts that I've heard. Then you look at another defensive lineman or defensive players like Booker Pickett Jr. I think we also will get him. You will get him later on in the year. His is going to go up to the month of December, but Florida State's also trending really well for him. Isn't that the one that was wearing the Florida State clothes? Wasn't it?
No, that was I believe King Joseph Edwards, who recently we got back involved with. Like all of a sudden, we're trending with him too.
So that's another one that Florida State's starting to trend really, really good for is Joseph, and that's a defensive end, and he's really good. He's a 4-star. A lot of people say that he should be a 5-star, and that's not Florida State saying that he should be a 5-star. That is a lot of the fan bases that are after this kid can't believe that he's not a 5-star based off of what he's capable of and what he does game in and game out. Florida State is trending for him extremely well. And I'm going to be honest. Florida State's defensive line worries should end after this season because of who Odell, who Pat Pooch, who they're all going to get. I think people will extremely accept that they knew what they were doing the whole time. and that people need to realize that I've been telling this for the past 2 years that Florida State they've got a list, not only a list of guys that they want, but they've got a list of how they're going to attack it. They attack the wide receivers first. They attack then the defensive ends, then this, then that. That's how they go in order. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me what the method is to that madness, but I can tell you that that's what they do because each year so far, he gets the quarterback out of the way. You got Luke Cromenhawk out of the way early before anyone else even offered this kid or even knew who he was. Florida State had already given him an offer. He wasn't even ranked yet. He was actually starting as a safety before anybody knew that he was a quarterback. So Florida State got on him really early. Then they get their running back. They make sure they get those two, and then they start focusing on the offensive line. In 2022, we took 9, and now this year we went after DBs and wide receivers very heavily. There's also a lot of rumors about JoJo Trader, who's verbally committed to Miami. Well, what him and Florida State players and current verbal recruits for Florida State did to the Miami fan base gave a lot of them they were ill. And what I mean by that is almost had a heart attack because a lot of Florida State 24 classmen that are verbally committed to Florida State started following JoJo, started liking stuff that JoJo was saying. Then JoJo started following a bunch of Florida State guys that are currently on the team, a bunch of Florida State commits. He started following them. Then you see them chatting back and forth. And now there's a lot of rumors around the potential of him flipping to Florida State. I told everybody in the beginning when he verbally committed to Miami, it was awkward the way that it happened. It was a really weird commitment. It was out of nowhere. He hadn't been saying anything, and then all of a sudden he commits to Miami. The day that he shows up to Miami, he makes sure that he tells everyone that his recruitment is not over and that he will be taking a lot of visits to other schools. I think that's a very odd thing to do when you on your first visit to Miami to let everybody know, hey, this isn't lock stock. I'm still looking elsewhere. Even though I'm verbally committed, I'm very much looking elsewhere. And then you've got a lot of rumors around Jeremiah Smith, who's a verbal commit to Ohio State, has been for a very long time. And if you was to listen to Miami fans, they had him in the bag. He's coming to Miami. It's done. It's a done deal. He's going to flip any day now, blah, blah, blah. Well, now, after the Georgia Tech game, him making his statements publicly known that it made his stomach turn and some things were, not what he expected them to be. I will say that Dugans has done a phenomenal job with him as well. I'm not saying that we're flipping him from Ohio State, but I think if he does flip from Ohio State, that it is to Florida State. And a lot of people keep asking me, why would he flip from Ohio State? The only reason that I can give you is he's got a lot of friends that are going to Florida State, 1. 2, no one's 100% set that the wide receiver coach for Ohio State will not soon be called up to be a head coach somewhere. That's what all these kids are worried about. That's what a plethora of parents are worried about. Parents that have came with their recruits to Florida State, they ask media from their perspective, hey, do you think the wide receiver coach at Ohio State's going anywhere? Have y'all heard anything? Are there any rumors? Look, as good as a coach as that man is, as many wide receivers he's putting in the NFL, I think we would all be extremely dense or numb to ourselves to believe that with the coaches that aren't doing well this year, that Hartline would not be one of the guys that gets called. You would be lying to yourself. Yes, I think Hartline would be one of the first people that a lot of teams call. And do I believe that he would take it? I mean, I would assume every coach has the same idea about what they want to do with their career, and that's eventually be a head coach. So I'm not going to say that he's leaving next year, but I am going to say that I think it would be dumb for us to say that we knew for a fact he would be there come 2024. We can't say that. We can't say that about a lot of coaches, but he's very talented. So I think that's a good reason that Jeremiah Smith could end up at Florida State. There's no question where Dugans is going to be. Dugans may be one of the only coaches that nobody's worried about being a head coach elsewhere. He ain't been here too long. He ain't done this long enough for too many people to call him about a head coaching job. So you got at least 2 or 3 years with Dugans left, so you get that security. So it's a good thing for the athletes now.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely going to have to. I don't know if Hartline's not like an assistant head coach or anything yet. They're going to have to, kind of like Alex Atkins, they're going to have to figure out something, either make him a coordinator or worry about him leaving. And if he goes, I have, 100%. I'm with Chris. If Jeremiah Smith is going to leave Ohio State, it'll be to come to Florida State. Also from Miami, Artavius Jones. There was kind of a situation a couple months ago in the summer where he ended up coming to Florida State against Miami's wishes and kind of blowing off a Florida visit. And there was a lot of rumors apparently, possible flip, and those are starting to come back. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him flip. And also don't forget about Jamari Howard, of course. He's almost but 100% a Florida State lock at this point, I'm pretty sure. Just waiting to see when he decides to commit. And also, kind of like Chris said, the same thing with Josiah Trader. Nye Carr committed kind of the same way. I don't know if he ends up at Florida State, how that works out, the room situation, now that he's committed at Miami. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him back on the market and see what happens there, too.
Brian Hartline was elevated to offensive coordinator for this season sometime this past summer. Now, anyone who knows offensive-minded head coaches, though, and Ryan Day is one of those, if you're going to go be an offensive coordinator for somebody like Ryan Day or Lincoln Riley, you're not totally the offensive coordinator.
The Kenny Dillingham situation, how Kenny had to leave Florida State to go be for a defensive head coach.
Yep.
At Oregon. I could see that possibility as well.
Absolutely. So that's the deal with Brian Hartline, is they wanted to appease him. They wanted to show him some love and show that he's valued. And so they gave him that promotion. But how much is he really doing in that? I'm sure he has added responsibilities, but he is not calling the plays and not a full-fledged offensive coordinator with the Buckeyes. All right. Really good stuff out of these two tonight. These guys make it go for us here at the Voice of College Football. So without Chris, without George, we do not have a Florida State show here on Wednesday night. So we appreciate them, and we want you to head on over to Spear Addicts. Again, it's a Sunday call-in show. Man, direct call to Chris to talk Florida State football. What could be better than that? So Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Spear Addicts. And then these two combine for a power doubleheader on Monday and Thursday night. So you get Renegade Report at 7 p.m. Eastern time, Monday and Thursday, followed by the 8 p.m. show on Spear Addicts. So lock it in for Florida State football coverage. And of course, we'll be back here next Wednesday. You can count on us. And we've done this 234 consecutive weeks. And of course, check out George with the post-game show following Florida State and Duke. And that's right here at the Voice of College Football as well. Also want to keep in mind, if you look at the banner down below, we can help benefit your personal brand, your business, whatever you've got going. Please contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, and we will talk about how we can benefit you and partner with you here at the Voice of College Football. Chris, thank you so much for making the time. I know you got a zillion things going on. You as well, George. Thanks for making it happen, and we will see you guys. Enjoy the game this weekend.
Absolutely. Go Noles.
Go Noles, baby.